Hello everybody, welcome to F1 Grandstand. I'm Tony Craig, and if you are an F1 fan, you are in the right place. Hit the subscribe button, join the community and get involved. Did you all enjoy the Belgian Grand Prix this weekend? I did a full Belgian Grand Prix roundup show yesterday. If you haven't seen it yet, go and give it a watch when you have time. So what's on the show today? We will be debating if Max was right to be furious and slam the FIA for delaying the start to the Belgian Grand Prix because of the rain. Are we witnessing the end of wet races in Formula One? Is that a good thing? Let's get into it. So, first of all, Max Verstappen. Is it over for wet races in Formula One? Max Verstappen slams the FIA in a post-race interview, and other drivers, Leclerc, Hamilton and Russell, waded in on the debate. So all of the cars were set up for a wet race, and this is what Max said. It was a choice that we made with the setup of the car, which was then the wrong one, of course, because they didn't allow us to race in the wet. Once we got to the dry tyres, we were just too slow on the straight, and then with the general balance problems that I already have with the car, it made everything just a bit worse. Now, as a wet weather specialist, Verstappen felt the track was close to being ready at the original start time, and he was critical of the drivers requesting race control to delay the start. He went on to say between turn 1 and turn 5 there was quite a bit of water, but if you do 2 laps behind the safety car it would have been a lot more clear. He also said, and the rest of the track was ready to go. The more you run, it will be much better, and if you can't see, you can always lift. At one point you will see. Now obviously that would come down to the skill of the driver in wet conditions. He went on to say, at the end of the day, they do what they want, right? But I just find it a bit of a shame for everyone. You will never see these classic wet races anymore. But it wasn't just Max, because Lewis Hamilton, another wet weather specialist, was in agreement. Even though Lewis was driver of the day, P18 to P7, reminiscent of Lewis of old, he said, we obviously started the race a little too late. I kept shouting, it's ready to go, it's ready to go. And they kept going round and round and round. So I think they were probably overreacting from the last race, where we asked them not to restart the race too early because visibility was bad. I think this weekend they just made it a bit too much the other way because we didn't need a rolling start. Definitely could have done a standing start, especially at the end there. It was almost a dry line. It was It was hot in the spray, so we definitely could have done it. So that's what Lewis had to say. But there is a counter argument, because George Russell, who is a director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, the GPDA, has in the past already insisted that the FIA should cancel the Belgian Grand Prix if it becomes unsafe to race at Spa, given the lack of visibility in heavy rain. Now, he waded into the debate this weekend. He said, I mean, as a racer, you always want to get going. You love driving in the rain. But the fact is, when you're doing over 200 miles an hour out of Eau Rouge, you literally cannot see anything. You may as well have a blindfold on. It isn't racing, it's just stupidity. So I think, considering it was clearly going to be dry from 4 o'clock onwards, I think it was the right call to delay the race. Now, in the past 6 years, we have seen tragedy at Spa. In 2019, F2 driver Antoine Hubert, 22, lost control of his car on the second lap of the race at the top of Radion. After the initial impact with the barriers, Hubert's car came back on the racetrack and was hit at 200 kilometers an hour by American driver Juan Manuel Correa. and the tragic death of Dutch racing driver Delano van Toff, who died at the age of 18 following a crash at Spa when he was in an accident involving multiple cars, also at Radion, in wet conditions whilst driving for MP Motorsport in the Formula Regional European Championship in 2023. So, obviously, no fan wants to see fatalities, and our thoughts and prayers will always be with those families affected. But the fans love to see an exciting race where the weather can level the playing field, so it becomes less about the car and more about the driver's skill in very difficult conditions. You see, lots of drivers in weaker cars welcome a wet race to give them a chance to score points against the better cars, showcasing their driving talent, like in 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, Montreal. Jenson Button driving the McLaren Mercedes. Started in P7, but he dropped to last, and then he climbed to win, passing Kimi Raikkonen and others late in the race. From P21 to P1, a stunning comeback, considered one of the greatest wet weather drives of all time. And in 1998 Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, Damon Hill driving the Jordan Honda, the race ran entirely in torrential rain. 13 cars crashed on lap 1, leading to a red flag and a restart, and Hill and teammate Ralf Schumacher finished a surprise 1-2 in a Jordan. Will we ever see this again? You see, those wet races get the fans on the edge of their seats and give the fans a lifetime memory of that fateful wet race day when the underdog achieved the impossible. So, are the FIA killing the sport by preventing the drivers from driving in wet conditions? What do you think? Get in the chat. What do you think of Max's comments, George's comments, and Lewis's comments? Because you've got three excellent drivers. You had Max saying it was fine to race. You had Lewis saying not only was it fine to race, but we didn't need a rolling start. But then on the other hand, you've got George with an opposing view saying because of the spray and you're travelling over 200 miles an hour into Eau Rouge, that's not racing, that's stupidity. Whereas Max said, yeah, we understand the spray when you're driving in the wet, and if you can't see, you can always lift, you can always slow down, and that makes it the driver's decision. If you cannot see properly, well then you need to lift. So we add an element to the racing for the best drivers in the world. Now, I don't know whether this is driver bravado or whether it's a different mentality from, say, the new school drivers. Are the old school drivers better race car drivers? I mean, if you think of the best wet weather drivers there's ever been, you've got Schumacher, you've got Senna, Prost. You have to throw Button in the mix because he was great in the wet. Even Damon Hill, great in the wet. And these drivers were driving without all the safety aids that we have in modern F1. Was it a different mentality back then? So are the new school drivers, are they less brave, or are they just more sensible? Now, in my age, I've seen and followed Formula 1 since the 80s. And I have to say, when you watch Formula 1 in the 80s and 90s, it was far more dangerous. And the drivers had to make more decisions. There was less computers in the car making the decisions for you. So the driver could affect the outcome of the race more than the car in a lot of ways. Now we have cars where the car can affect the race more than the driver. But when we get to a wet race, all the advantage of having the best car, a lot of that advantage is lost. because the skill of the driver in wet conditions can mean that a car like running at the back of the grid with a good driver gets a window to show how good he is against the top teams, because that's how we find these jewels in the crown, right? But has the FIA become too much of a nanny organisation trying to protect the drivers? Should we be walking a more balanced approach? Obviously, like I said before, nobody wants to see drivers lose their lives or horrific injuries. We just want to see racing that excites the fans. And unfortunately, Spa this weekend didn't really do that, did it? We had Hamilton's driver of the day performance, for sure. But the rest of the field, people held position, really. There wasn't much overtaking. There wasn't much excitement. It was a little bit of a snooze fest. So when we look at some of these classic wet races that people remember for decades, where the underdog has the chance to do the impossible, surely as fans we still want to see that. So how can the FIA walk the line between safety and excitement and not killing the wet race? Because personally, I do not want to see the death of the wet races in Formula One. But tell me what you think in the chat, because this is a topic which will run on and on and on. So give me your opinion on, do the new school drivers have the same talent as the old school drivers? Do you think the FIA is trying to kill the wet race? And what can be done about it? I want to see your opinions in the chat. Let me know, because if you, like me, love an exciting F1 race, and if you, like me, remember those days where a mid to bottom team ends up hitting the podium or winning races because of the track conditions, then there's something that needs to be done. The FIA need to know how to walk that line, and they need to listen to the drivers. Like I said before, nobody wants to see drivers lose their lives or horrific accidents, but we do want to see them showcase their skill in the most difficult conditions. So tell me your thoughts in the chat. I can't wait to see them. And again, thanks for watching F1 Grandstand. Please like, comment, join the community, subscribe and hit the bell so you can keep up to date. I will be back tomorrow with more news. I will see you then.